Have you ever looked at ancient texts, all the stories about gods and miracles, and wondered if it was all about something else? Something from up there in the stars? Today, we are diving into one of the wildest, most popular fringe theories of the last century. But this isn't just a story about aliens and pyramids. Oh no, it's a story of Cold War spies, state-sponsored propaganda, and a very real, calculated effort to replace religion itself. All right, let's get into it. So here it is, the big question. The one that launched a million late-night conversations and a whole lot of TV shows. The idea is actually pretty simple, right? What if the beings our ancestors worshipped as all-powerful gods were actually just extraterrestrial visitors, and their advanced technology was just completely mistaken for divine power? So how on earth did this idea go from the pages of sci-fi magazines to a global phenomenon? Well, it meant taking our most sacred stories and looking at them in a totally new way. Not as spiritual texts, but more like garbled historical records of humanity's first contact. The guy who really blew this whole thing up was a Swiss hotel manager named Erich von Däniken. His book from 1968, Chariots of the Gods, became this absolute blockbuster. And it was all built on one shocking idea, that nearly every ancient myth, every religious text, was hiding a secret history of aliens visiting Earth. Now, he wasn't the first person to think of this stuff, but man, he packaged it perfectly for a world that was suddenly obsessed with technology and space. Okay, so here's a perfect example of how the theory actually works. You take the biblical book of Ezekiel. For thousands of years, people have read this as a deep, mystical vision from God. But von Däniken comes along, looks at the part about fiery chariots and wheels within wheels, and says, hold on, this isn't a metaphor. He argued that what we're reading is just a regular person from a long time ago trying his absolute best to describe a piece of super advanced machinery, like a landing spaceship. And this same logic just got applied to everything. All of a sudden, miracles weren't miracles anymore. They were machines. The Ark of the Covenant, the one that could strike people dead? Nope, not the power of God. It was an alien radio transmitter, probably with a massive electrical charge. The total destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? That wasn't divine wrath. It was a tactical nuke. So the key takeaway here is that the theory is designed to strip away all the mystery from religion and replace it, piece by piece, with technology. But here is where the story takes this sharp, unexpected turn. We're leaving the world of speculative history and entering the very real world of Cold War espionage. Because these ideas didn't just capture the public's imagination, they found a very, very powerful backer at the highest levels of a global superpower. And trust me, it's not who you'd expect. Think about it. This wasn't some fringe group or a lone billionaire. This was a whole country with a very clear, very powerful reason for pushing the idea that our gods were just aliens in high-tech suits. Any guesses? Yep, the officially, aggressively anti-religion Soviet Union. I mean, it's kind of perfect when you think about it. For a government that was committed to wiping out religion, a theory that turns God into a technologically advanced alien was the perfect ideological weapon. For more than a decade, the communist government, which used to make fun of UFOs, became one of the biggest champions of the ancient cosmonaut theory. And this timeline just lays it all out. It's pretty wild. Before 1959, any talk of UFOs in Soviet newspapers was treated as a joke, just silly Western nonsense. Then, practically overnight, they started publishing articles championing the idea of ancient alien visitors. The timing was perfect, right as the space race was kicking into high gear. And then, just as suddenly as it started, poof! After 1970, official support vanished, once the idea had already taken root in the West. So why? Why would they do all this? Well, the Kremlin wasn't really interested in finding aliens in our past. They were interested in shaping the West's future by messing with its present. And they saw the ancient astronaut theory as the perfect tool for the job. And you don't have to take my word for it. American intelligence was watching all of this very closely. This is from a declassified cable from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow back in '68. They knew this flood of material wasn't for the Soviet people. It was a targeted information campaign aimed right at the United States and its allies. And the strategy had a few different angles. First, it gave them a scientific-sounding way to explain away religion, replace God with aliens, which was perfect for their anti-religious propaganda. But second, and this is the clever part, by promoting a theory they themselves would later call anti-scientific, they hoped to create confusion and make people doubt not just their faith, but also Western science itself. As one CIA memo put it, the goal was to get the public mentally conditioned to acceptance of the incredible. But the story doesn't just end with the Cold War. The seeds that were planted by guys like von Däniken and watered by Soviet propaganda, they grew into something completely new. Actual organized religions that worshipped the alien creators, while at the same time rejecting the very idea of God. The most famous example is probably the Raelian movement. They started up in the 70s, and they basically took the ancient astronaut theory and just ran with it. They believe that the old biblical name for God, Elohim, doesn't mean God at all. They say it translates to those who came from the sky, and that these beings were just alien scientists who created all life on Earth in a lab. And check this out. This is a page from one of their texts, and it's fascinating. It's a side-by-side rewrite of Genesis, where it says the spirit of the Elohim moved across the waters. They say that's talking about reconnaissance flights. The creation of light isn't some divine miracle. It's a technological solution to filter out radiation. It's a total reboot of scripture for a scientific age. And they're not shy about it at all. As you can see from this quote, they proudly call themselves an atheist religion. In their world, there are no supernatural forces, no angels, no demons. The creators are physical beings, made of flesh and blood, just like us, but way, way more advanced. It basically replaces faith in God with faith in technology. So after all this, the gods, the spacemen, the spies, what's the big takeaway? What does the fact that this theory is still so popular tell us, not about our distant past, but about right now? Well, a lot of researchers call this whole thing a kind of secular creationism. See, in an age where a lot of people aren't satisfied with traditional religion, but maybe they find things like the theory of evolution a little cold or complicated, this offers a really compelling third option. It gives you a grand story about where we came from that feels scientific, even if it's not really based on any evidence. And this quote just nails it. The ancient astronaut theory isn't really about the past at all. It's a story we tell about our present. We look at our own amazing technology, space travel, genetic engineering, atomic power, and we just project it all backwards. We look at the gods of our ancestors, and instead of seeing something divine, we just see a reflection of ourselves, a shining mirror of our own time. So it leaves you with this one last big question. Whether the myth is about a divine creator or ancient cosmonauts or something else entirely, the stories we tell about where we come from always seem to end up being stories about who we are right now. So what do you think our most popular modern myths say about us today?